सो हेलो नमस्कार सत श्री अकाल। स्वागत है आप सभी का पॉडकास्टर आशुतोष के नए एपिसोड में। और प्रकाश कुमार झा जी आज हमारे बीच बैठे हैं, जो कि क्लाइमेट चेंज के ऊपर प्रखर रूप से अपनी आवाज़ बुलंद करते हैं। और अगर मैं बात करूं तो असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर ऑफ क्लाइमेटोलॉजी इन मिसिसिपी स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी यूएसए, और प्रखर रूप से अपनी बात क्लाइमेटोलॉजी और रिसर्च बेसिकली ऑन क्लाइमेट चेंज के ऊपर काम कर रहे हैं। तो आज इस पॉडकास्ट के थ्रू जानेंगे मेजर प्रॉब्लम्स रिलेटेड टू आर क्लाइमेट चेंज एंड सॉल्यूशंस के ऊपर बात करेंगे, बिकॉज वी ऑल टॉक अबाउट द प्रॉब्लम्स which are there in the society, but we don't talk about or focus on the problems or the precautions which should be taken to procure all these things. So sir, welcome. I welcome you on the behalf of my team and podcaster
Mhm.
Ashutosh on this channel.
Thank you for having me, Sastos.
So
Pleasure being
it's
here.
it's my pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So the first question which arises in my mind, what is climatology? अगर एक बेसिक एक लेमैन तरीके से अगर समझाया जाए,
Mhm.
क्लाइमेटोलॉजी क्या है, कैसे डील करते हैं हम उससे?
Good deal. Climatology, when we talk about climatology, it's all about a bigger term for 30 year and more changes in the climate. And
Hmm.
basically, when we talk about weather
Weather,
is 7 days, 10 days, 15 days,
short span.
short span. So the climatology is more of longer change in the weather parameter.
Hmm.
And that's how the climate change, when we talk about what are the changes in temperature, rainfall for 30 years, 20 years.
Hmm.
So normal temperature are called 30-year temperature, and when we have deviation on those temperature, rainfall, those patterns, then we call as a climatology or climate change.
Climate change.
Nowadays when we talk about newbies, they have
Hmm.
always a confusion between weather and climate.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
we need to understand there is a subtle difference between weather and climate.
Climate.
Short span weather parameters, which is day to day activities,
Mm-hmm.
where we say next day will be humid, hot, that is mostly weather. But when you see the summer average temperature is going to be 2 degrees Celsius higher in next 10 days.
Hmm.
However, next 10 years,
That
that
is
is more of
climate.
climatology.
Yes.
So this is basic difference of weather and
Hmm.
climate.
So how the climate is changing, or how we are heading towards a more, I can say, very drastic result of climate change. We are heading towards a society where we are not bothering about the environment, the degradation of environment,
Mhm.
and the climatology is changing drastically. So, sir,
Mhm.
can you please give us a large picture, a broad picture of this?
Yes, so climatology is study of climate.
Hmm.
So how much climate is changing?
Hmm.
As per the studies by IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change,
Mm-hmm.
they say that there is a change of 2 degrees Celsius
Per year,
over the last century,
century.
and it's going to be warmer in next 50
Hmm.
years, and in next 100 years it will be 5 degrees Celsius warmer. In terms of rainfall,
Mm-hmm.
certain part of the world will be drier, certain parts of the world will be wetter, depending on El Nino and La Nina effect, which is oceanic water movement.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, we see it will be warm and dry or warm and humid. This will be a future climate change impact in next 50 to 100 years. Now, when we say impact, impact could be on human health,
Mm-hmm.
could be on agriculture, could be on daily lifestyle, infrastructure, anything. So when we talk about natural system, agriculture, the impact is more severe because we need to have nutritious quality food down the
Mm-hmm.
line for increasing population. And if we do not have nutritious food in changing temperature, changing CO2, carbon dioxide level,
Dioxide. Hmm.
it will be problem for us. But when you ask me how climate change is related to nutrition,
Hmm.
basically when we have high carbon dioxide level, there will be more biomass growth. So the carbohydrate growth will be more. However, the protein growth or nutrient, other new micronutrients growth will be lower.
Okay.
So there is a more biomass growth, but there will be lower in nutrition quality.
Yes.
So let me simplify in another way. A cattle which feeds on grass,
Mm-hmm.
and cattle gets all those energies from
Crops,
grasses,
yes.
right? In changing carbon dioxide parameter, which has more biomass after high carbon dioxide level, ultimately you will see there's a more carbohydrate and less nitrogen or protein in the grass, and that grass is fed to cattle.
Cattles.
Ultimately it comes to milk and meat as well, other
Yes.
parts of the world, right?
Mm.
So in that sense we can say that the nutrition is a bigger challenge in climate change perspective.
Mm. So, sir, I guess you are the right person to ask that we nowadays talk about greenhouse effect.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
how is this related to climate change, and what is greenhouse effect actually?
Oh, this is a great question. It's a greenhouse gas effect. So let me simplify for all of your audience. The greenhouse gas effect means if I build a house of
Mm-hmm.
glass, if you
Mm-hmm.
go inside, you will feel warm.
Yeah.
Why? Because there is a shorter wavelength of radiation coming to the glass from inside the glass, and it cannot go outside as a longer
So it,
wavelength.
it get trapped and right
Get
inside.
trapped. Heat is
Mm.
trapped. Likewise, the Earth has atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
of all those gases. So those all gases trap heat,
Mm-hmm.
and when the concentration of those gases goes beyond certain limit,
Mm-hmm.
we will feel warmer, and
Mm.
that concept is called greenhouse effect,
Effect.
greenhouse gas effect, or greenhouse heating effect. So gases like carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, and other multiple
Gases are involved.
chlorofluorocarbons, those gases have heating impact on the planet Earth.
Planet.
And that's how we see more of climate change. And people are talking about reducing carbon, carbon, carbon.
Carbon footprints,
So
we can
carbon
say.
footprint, why they're saying all about? Because the carbon dioxide is a reference gas. And from that, we will have a carbon dioxide potential that is called global warming potential,
Okay.
reference of carbon dioxide.
Mm.
That's why when we reduce the impact of climate change, we talk about reducing carbon footprint,
Mm.
reducing carbon value.
So,
So
so
carbon
in
is the reference,
yes, carbon is a reference for each and every
greenhouse
aspects, right?
gas.
Gas
Yes.
effects, right? So, sir, in this sequence, we talk about ozone depletion.
Hmm.
So, what are the major reasons? I guess this is one of the major reason. The greenhouse effect is a
Hmm.
major reason of
Hmm.
ozone depletion.
Hmm.
But what are other reasons than this? And how is our ozone? Uh, how to what extent is it? It is destructed.
Right. So ozone depletion is a major event caused by especially chlorofluorocarbons.
Mm-hmm.
Like air conditioner,
Mm.
we use a lot of chlorofluorocarbon. In refrigerator, we use a lot of coolants. Those are uh, chlorofluorocarbons,
Yes.
and when that goes to environment, that leads to depletion. Depletion means thinning of ozone layer.
Thinning of ozone
But
layers.
certain parts of the world, or maybe planet Earth, where we have a high level of thinning, there is a more thinning than some other parts. However, the climate has its own resilience mechanism to heal that thinning. So the ozone healing process is kind of natural process.
Mm-hmm.
However, when we enforce our extra use of chlorofluorocarbon from coolants,
Mm.
that will lead to significant ozone depletion. Apart from that, we have a lot of effluents from industry, and that also goes to ozone depletion, or sulfur dioxide
Industries
especially.
are contributing in many ways.
Yes, certain parts, certain chemical industry, yes.
And carbon monoxide is how it is it also
That is
a
a
major?
reacting agent
Mm.
for ozone depletion as well.
Mm.
Reacting agent.
So apart from all these technical aspects, if I talk about your personal career growth,
Hmm.
starting from Bihar, the land of Bihar,
Hmm.
you went to USA.
Okay.
So, and you are currently teaching the students out there.
Hmm.
So, how this journey have been?
Good. It's been nostalgic to be in Bihar. My schooling was from Navodaya Vidyalaya,
Mm,
Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, from class 6 to 12.
12th.
And after 12th, I moved to Banaras Hindu University for my
Mm,
undergrad in agriculture sciences. After my undergrad, I moved to Indian Agriculture Research Institute, Pusa, New Delhi,
Hmm.
for my master's in environmental sciences. When I joined master's program, there I got interest in research
Okay.
because IARI is basically popular for agriculture research, one of the premier institute in agriculture research.
Hmm.
When I was doing master there, I got some interest in further research. Then I moved to US for my PhD. So 2014, I moved to US for my PhD program. I did my PhD from Michigan State University. So I must say I'm from Madhubani in Bihar and Michigan. So Madhubani to Michigan, M to M.
M to M.
Now this story will continue. M to M. Now I'm in Mississippi.
Oh,
So M
that's
to
great.
M to M. So Madhubani to Michigan, and then now I'm faculty in Mississippi.
Mm,
So my M affection and love is
mm,
continuing.
mm,
So I'm serving as assistant professor in agriculture climatology. My current role is 60/40. When I say 60/40 means 60% research as a scientist
mhm.
and 40% teaching. So in India is different, but
There
in
is no.
US salary scale is different.
Yeah.
So in US my salary comes from research from
Mm,
60% and 40% from college, like government salary.
mm.
So 60% project I have to bring, and that's why
So that
so
is must to bring on the table, right?
must to bring on the table, otherwise they will
Mm,
fire you.
my God,
So it's a
that's not the case with India.
yeah, corporate kind of world.
Many researchers are working here, but
Hmm.
this is very sad, but
Yeah,
a true thing. Many researchers are working, but not bringing anything on the table.
yeah.
Many masters are have been completing. If I talk about in a particular year,
Hmm.
thousands of masters are being done, but none of the research are of that level which could bring some change in the society.
It's going when you see some of the institutes in India like IITs and ITs
Mm.
and some
So
part of
those premium institutes are
yeah,
working.
they do work on
Mm,
those component, and they have some component to bring research funding as well, and that drives you to write
mm,
research papers,
yes.
good proposal for the projects, and good patents as well. And if you don't have those kind of drive,
Mm.
you will not find good research, and that is a kind of must, a driving factor for a research ecosystem.
So in your this journey of M and to M to M,
Hmm.
you need definitely a great willpower first of all,
Hmm.
and a great support, or can say a great source of motivation. So
Hmm.
what was your source of motivation in those years?
Mm, again, middle class family. I was from middle class family. My mom was teacher, school
Mm,
teacher. My father is a social worker, and he has great reputation in society. But my mother was single earner in the family, and we were from middle class family. So one of the prime inspiration is to
mm,
get something which can bring a good reputation as well as good money.
mm,
So reputation drive comes from my father because he was uh, fairly recognized by
mm.
society. So that drives me to get reputation, and money factor because I was from middle class family. So these are two prime factor during my school days. I have to do something better to improve lifestyle. Down the line, the another M factor, which I always say, which is called motivation.
Yeah.
That is the M factor, and that motivation comes through N network. So if you have a network of good people,
Mm,
you will certainly achieve your goal. When I say network builds on how best you can communicate via your social media, LinkedIn, communicate to your peers, write good emails. So networking is very important for
mm,
getting motivation because you
yeah.
see your peers are doing great, they are doing something amazing, and then you try to follow them.
Mm,
So that motivation comes from networking. And then once I landed into that pool of people where I found that they are doing something good, I should follow them.
mm,
Then it comes to your skill sets. Then you need to build your skill sets like programming or whatever in your research area. So in my research area, I used to work mostly on data science in agriculture.
data science
Data
related to
science,
agriculture.
yeah,
So
computer,
how it is related to agriculture?
yeah. So I'll come on that. In agriculture, most of the component they work on the field,
Mm-hmm.
and those who are not in agriculture, they think that everything what we study in agriculture is
Mm-hmm.
in field. But there are some component which completely runs on data,
Yeah.
like
What are
my
those
like my
components?
lab.
Mm-hmm.
So my lab name is called Mac Lab. Mac Lab means
MATLAB.
Mississippi Agroclimatology Collaboratory.
Okay.
So what we do, we combine crop simulation models on computers. We use Python programming, R, Java to process the codes for climate data,
Mm-hmm.
climate modeling, and we assemble those models to see the impacts of climate change.
Okay.
So a lot of simulations.
Hmm.
So we do a lot of simulation, hypothetical simulations, future simulations, historical data, weather
Hmm.
data, future weather data, those kind of data
So
we
all these
take.
datas are required for
Simulations
these simulations come to a
for
result as
for yes, for crop
to
simulation
drive
model,
change in crop cultivation,
crop pattern,
crop pattern,
crop
right?
growth and development. So let's
Okay.
say if I say uh, we are human being,
Mm-hmm.
and if there is some computer simulation which can simulate our growth and development in a computer,
Okay.
1 day, 2 day, 5 day, 10 day, 50 year, 80 years, how you will look like.
Hmm.
Same for crops. When we plant, after some days, 5 or 6 days germinates. After that, there will be two leaf stage, four leaf stage, flowering,
Mm-hmm.
seed set, and ultimately it matures and dies. So
Hmm.
that crop cycle we simulate on computer.
Okay.
So computer needs weather data,
Mm-hmm.
soil data, crop data, field management data, everything what you do in the field, we put as a value. Computer understands everything in 0 1 binary, right?
Hmm.
So we try to simulate that binary into some meaningful data sets.
Yeah.
And that's how we simulate crop growth and development on the
So while
computer.
talking to you, a great question strikes my mind. Uh, we talk about climate change
Mhm.
as we talked earlier also while starting the podcast. Is climate change reversible?
Oh, this is a great point. And this is debatable as well. There's a lot of climate change conferences like COP29 is coming
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
There are two school of thoughts. One school of thought is mostly conservative. They think that it is not reversible
Hmm.
because we are doing unprecedented kind of human activities or anthropogenic activities, which leads to severe damage of uh,
Environment
environment as well as higher concentration of greenhouse gases,
gases.
and we cannot reverse it. However, there is another school of thought. They talk about adaptation and mitigation.
Okay.
What are the practices we do to
Hmm.
adapt and mitigate the cause?
Okay.
So that is called adaptation and mitigation
Mitigation
measures.
measures.
If we can consider adaptation and mitigation measures right time, right amount, we can preserve our environment. And that's how it can be reversed.
Okay.
Now, let me explain it another way. When you talk to climate scientists, they always talk about different scenario of climate change.
Mm-hmm.
They say RCP 2.6, RCP 8.5,
Those are
but
technical
they
terms.
are technical terms in terms of
Hmm.
greenhouse gas effect. So RCP 2.6 means if we have adaptation and mitigation measures, if we control everything, what will be the future climate change? That is
Mm-hmm.
2.6. 4.5 means we are doing nothing, normal condition. And
Okay.
8.5, we are not doing at all anything.
Hmm.
Then what will be the climate change impact? So in terms of those scenarios, if we see these are reversible, but
Hmm.
not coming to that stage,
Hmm.
we can reduce the impact.
Okay.
If we start from 1930, we cannot come back at 1930.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
Hmm.
But the pace it is going from
We can
1930 to
control that
2030,
pace, right?
we can reduce the pace, acceleration
Hmm.
of the graph of
Yeah.
temperature,
The
rainfall.
exponential growth of the graph, right? We
Exactly,
can
exactly.
control that.
Carbon dioxide
Hmm.
level, we can reduce the rate of growth or
Hmm.
rate of increase.
Okay. So one more term is being coined these days, that is heat waves, right?
Mhm,
So what are those? What is heat wave actually, and how is it impacting the local? I can say local. If I talk about local, it means the country, right? Local geography, if I can say the
mhm,
geography of that country or climatology of that particular country, the heat
mhm,
waves, right?
mhm. Heat wave. When we talk heat wave, These are basically pre-monsoon heat waves because of high temperature. Let me differentiate between pre-monsoon and post-monsoon heat waves.
Yeah.
Pre-monsoon heat wave before June 15 or July
Mm-hmm.
1 in India, specifically, those are lack of rain and high temperature.
Mm-hmm. Origin of this is in Central Asia, right?
The heat waves across the world,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm first explaining for Indian context and then I'll go to global
Sure.
context as well. For Indian context, heat wave is basically are in two category: pre-monsoon and
Post
post-monsoon.
monsoon.
Pre-monsoon is a combination of high temperature and a
Mm-hmm.
low or lack of rainfall, which
Okay.
is starting from maybe mid-May to mid-June.
Mm.
The impact of pre-monsoon heat wave is that we have mango crops maturing, lychee crops maturing, sometime late harvesting of wheat in late April,
Mm.
sometime heat wave of terminal heat stress in heat wheat as well. So in terms of agriculture, but in terms of livestock, the cattle, cows, especially they have high impact of heat wave.
Mm.
Poultries, chicken,
Poultry farm.
they have severe impact on heat waves. In
Mm.
if you go to Hyderabad, every year thousands of chicken or poultry they die because of heat waves. Now, why it is important
Mm-hmm.
in terms of policymaker or
Mm-hmm.
in terms of um, um, adaptation and mitigation measures, we can say. For policymakers, um, they need to have some kind of measures to control heat waves. And that's how there is a lot of disaster planning or PMO level planning, state level planning the curve to curb the menace of heat wave. So they do a lot of planning on fog misting in cities nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they used to provide insurance to crops and livestock.
That fog misting is cloud seeding?
No, fog misting is nowadays, if you go to cities for dust settling,
Oh,
they
they're
use
sprinkling water, right?
sprinkling water. Yeah,
Mm.
for heat wave also they do, but that is localized. Let's say if you have a cattle herd of 20 in shade, so you can
Mm.
apply there. So those kind of heat waves are for poultry and livestock. And for human purpose, we usually consider that if you drink more water, don't go outside, those kind of measures we can take. Post monsoon heat wave is critical. Why I'm saying critical? The rice. We plant monsoon rice around July first week
Yes.
when monsoon arrives, and we have heat waves during that time, which is combination of good rainfall and high temperature,
Okay.
and that is very much dangerous for crop because of disease.
Okay. Good rainfall
Because
and high temperature.
high
This is
temperature
very
and high
dangerous.
humidity
High humidity.
is favorable for any disease.
Hmm.
Now, during that time, we have 4, 5, 6 leaf stage crops, and those stages of crops are very prone to bacterial infection, fungal infection,
Hmm.
and high temperature, high humidity.
Leads to
So,
grow of the
post monsoon
weeds,
heat
right?
waves are very much
Hmm.
problematic for early crops, especially rice. And some parts of Bihar, we have 3 season maize in a year for maize as well. However, in other parts of the world
Hmm.
where heat wave is mostly on human purpose, they worried about heat waves because of you don't go outside, especially when you see in US nowadays there is a heat warning of because we have 40 degrees Celsius.
Mm-hmm.
For US, 40 degrees Celsius is disaster because they are prone to maximum 30 degrees Celsius. So that's why they have warning, disaster warning. So you should not go outside. And there are certainly impacts on infrastructure like urban planning, water bodies,
Yeah.
aquatic culture. So multiple impacts, I can say. But overall, I can say the heat wave is critical in terms of planning, in terms of impact assessment, or in terms of disaster uh, risk reduction.
Disaster risk reduction.
Risk reduction means
Hmm.
when you say PMO is planning on heat wave, it means they are working with insurance company to provide whatever the losses of heat waves.
Mm. So if I talk about, we can say there is a very big market of electric vehicles nowadays, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So how are these vehicles helping or not helping in achieving the goal of climate change?
Hmm. For short term, definitely yes.
Hmm.
For long term,
Because they are
no.
generating e-waste.
In terms of climate change, not that
Hmm.
perspective, but I will come on that point why I'm saying no.
Hmm.
For short term, yes, they are good. Why? Because they are reducing the emission of uh,
Carbon
harmful
emissions.
gases
Hmm.
from vehicle. That is first component. Second component is that in terms of long term, so the battery what they produce, semiconductor chips,
Hmm.
all those comes from the loss of biodiversity.
Loss of biodiversity.
How? It comes from Congo Basin,
Oh,
African Congo Basin. All semiconductor chips. They clean all those forests.
so they do mining.
Mining, yes,
Hmm.
cobalt mining, another kind of nickel mining. So, but you have to trade off. But the trade off of electric vehicle is much better than using gas or diesel or maybe
Yes.
petrol vehicle.
Hmm.
So yes, definitely yes, it's beneficial for environment. But if you trade off certainly e-waste one
Hmm.
component and another component loss of biodiversity.
So nowadays there is one more study where going very viral, right? As we study the climate on Mars, we study the climate on Moon.
Mhm.
So can you share some facts about that?
Yes, this is called exogenous studies.
Okay,
Exogenous means out of Earth,
out of Earth's.
and out of
Okay.
Earth studies, life studies.
Mm-hmm.
What is the possibilities of life? There are a lot of universities, labs where they do this kind of University of Nebraska, Lincoln. They do a lot of studies in U.S. Possibility of life on Mars, on Moon. NASA on different research stations they also do that. Why they do? Why they
Mm-hmm.
don't?
Try to save the Earth's
Yeah,
atmosphere.
why then?
Hmm.
Why don't they focus on desert on Earth?
On Earth, yeah.
And we have multiple resources,
Yes.
land resources on Earth where
Mm-hmm.
we need to improve, rather than going Mars or Moon. Why they're doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for next 200 years, 300 years. You don't know the possibility, right? Maybe some devastation or anything can be happen, right?
Mm.
So science unveils all those possibilities, and that turns impossibility into possibilities.
Right.
And that's why it is a need of art to explore the life beyond the earth. And I'm a champion or supporter of those kind of science, because once you know those components, then you can have those kind of ecosystem set up in barren land or
Mm-hmm.
desert or other parts of the world as well.
So, do you think green afforestation or plantation of more and more trees could help in these, I can say, in the drive of saving the climate?
Definitely, the more you plant,
Mm-hmm.
the more you have more carbon sequestration, soil carbon sequestration,
Yes.
carbon input, because those are carbon sink. More soil restoration, more soil conservation, more soil water improvement, more emission of good gases, I can say.
Other than this, what are other solutions for saving the planet or saving
Hmm.
the climate change,
Hmm. Hmm.
helping improving in climate change?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a green energy concept, first
Mm-hmm.
of all, like solar, wind. That is the first component, because energy sector is a major component, right,
Mm-hmm.
of climate change. In terms of ag, mostly we support farmers to plant cover crops. When you don't have any crops in the field,
Mm-hmm.
plant cover crop. Cover crop means grasses.
Mm.
So in US, cover crop is very important.
Grasses also helps in carbon.
They bind the soil, and
Okay.
then they contribute to soil carbon as a carbon sequestration.
Okay.
Not only so carbon sequestration, they improve soil carbon health, soil microbiology health,
Okay.
and for next crop season that contributes to the crop cycle. So
Mm.
these are different measures. And beyond that, optimizing the fertilizer use, optimizing the irrigation use based on
Mm.
precision satellite data, remote sensing, sensors, drones. So that's what we do in our lab. We combine remote sensing, crop simulation models, and sensors to provide decision support system to growers, how to optimize fertilizer, how to optimize irrigation use in the field to mitigate the impact of climate change.
Mm. So, who are your role models?
Hmm. Um, my role model is my mom, actually.
Okay.
She just retired from school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
Mm-hmm.
in science, my role model was Dr. Bhava, Bijagir Bhava.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any specific instance why you chose him as your
I
role
was in
model?
school when I was doing some projects,
Mm-hmm.
science projects, and then I did some nuclear fusion kind of project. And I was started reading, I started reading on his books and papers. And then down the line, Dr. Kalam also became my hero.
Mm.
So yeah.
So you are really working great and really an aspiration for many of youngsters from Bihar,
Hmm.
specifically from Bihar,
Hmm.
like me and many more brothers and sisters there in Bihar.
Hmm.
So any specific message to all of them? If this video reaches to any of the person who is trying to get to that university or to get study abroad
Hmm.
or work with the prestigious universities of the world
Hmm.
across the globe.
Hmm.
So, any specific message to them?
There is no one fit formula for anyone,
Hmm.
right? It worked for me, doesn't matter, work for everyone.
Yes.
So I will request everyone of your audience or whosoever is listening, please listen to your heart. Prioritize your personal need, family need, and your goals.
Hmm.
If your, for example, if your personal need or family needs or your career goal says that, okay, you need to do some kind of banking job, that is great. Many of my friends are doing banking job. For example, another option, some of my friends are doing business. They're doing great in business. So think of your, prioritize your health as well. Health is very important nowadays.
Yes.
Nobody talks about psychological issues or stress. So in early stage of life, especially with a lot of isolation, stress because of a lot of deviation from Instagram,
Mm, the
uh,
social media.
yeah, social media, a lot of deviation. Uh, in our times it was growing, now it
Hmm.
is so much occupied, you can't resist yourself.
Yes.
So try to balance those things, do not get stressed, and do not compare yourself to anyone. Whatever you think, you do that, and you should prioritize what you think, what your family thinks, and what your career
So
goals.
listen to your heart and prioritize your health
Hmm.
and listen to your family.
Family.
And so, with these, I think these are remarkable comments made by Sir.
Hmm.
And thank you, sir, for this insightful
Hmm.
podcast and being with us on this podcast series.
Sure.
And I'm very honored to have you here. And once again, thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for so much for your time, sir.
Thank you, Astas.
And
Thank you
I
for.
hope the
Hmm.
audience would like this conversation
Hmm.
and get some insightful ideas or insightful things, knowledge
Hmm.
from this podcast.
Hmm.
And thank you so much. Please like, share, and subscribe this podcast. And thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Astas, for
Thank
having
you,
me.
sir.
Thank you.